Hey, good morning, church. Look, I've been talking a lot about being on the path that that sometimes narrow, lonely, it's hard, few are there, but it's the path that Jesus called us to as Christians. And if we're in our Bibles every day, even though there's few people on this path, it doesn't mean that the path has to be lonely. Because if we're in our Bibles every day, we surround ourselves by other Christians. That's what Hebrews 10, 23, 24, and 25 is all about. To give us encouragement, to encourage one another. So much more as we see the day approach, and that day is hard, when we see it approach and we're surrounded by other believers to encourage us and for us to give them courage. The path doesn't have to be lonely, but we got to be in our word. We got to surround ourselves by Christians, and we call it church, small group studies as often as you can, join one another in one mind, and that's Jesus Christ. Doesn't matter your political bent, doesn't matter your race, it doesn't matter where you're from, the color of your skin, but if you come together with one mind, that's the mind of Christ, you'll have that encouragement through life when you're on the hard road, when it does get hard. And they'll help you know that you might be on that path that leads to destruction, and how do we know, as Christians, how do we know that we're not on the narrow path, but we're on the path that leads to destruction? Well, let me ask you this. Are you blowing up anything in your life? Like maybe fellowship in the church, maybe your home life, maybe at work, there's destruction that you're creating. Paul tells us how to talk to other people and to speak to them. Season your words with salt, to spice your words in a way that makes them appealing. And Jesus and Paul tells us to esteem our brothers better than ourselves. But if you're not doing that, you're probably blowing up things in your circle. So, keep that in mind. Maybe you're on a path that leads to destruction. And there's many people on there, and it's easy road. It's easy to lose your temper and lose control of your feelings and lose control of your words. It's easy, and I'll be honest with you, because we got that nature of sin that we inherited from Adam. It's kind of fun sometimes, isn't it? Doesn't it feel good to our flesh, but not to our spirit? So, maybe you lose your cool, you lose control of your feelings. It happens to all of us. It happens to me. I remember one time this lady that came to church. I was doing woodworking, and I was on base there in Camp Lejeune, and at a craft fair, selling my stuff. And a church member walked up to me, and she's like, "Hey, can I get a discount being a church member?" And off the cuff, I wasn't thinking, wasn't on my guard. I'm like, "Sorry, but you don't come to church often enough to get that discount." And of course, that was the wrong thing to say. It was dumb. But I've like Peter, I put my foot in my mouth an awful lot, but I apologized. I tried to change my ways and learn from my mistakes. So, we all lose control of our words, and I hope when you do, you try to apologize, you admit that you're wrong, and you restore fellowship. Because you can't have fellowship with God if you don't have fellowship with one another. So God bless you. Have a great day.